Hi, Justice fans. Today we're talking about Obama going big on his way out and cities paying up big. Well, and that and more. Join us on Justice is Served.
You are tuned into Black Hollywood Lives. Justice is served.
I'm getting thrown off by the music. That's what I'm blaming for my flub. I don't know how the song screams justice to you all, but
Oh, there we go. That's a good song.
It sings ready for the holidays.
Exactly. It's Christmas time. We're here. Yeah.
How is this not upbeat? This is great.
I love how Shaka tried to say, doesn't this song remind you of clemency? Like, no, that wasn't the first thing that I thought of but I love that you all love the song.
It's the best Christmas song.
Yeah, it is.
I feel a little ridiculous. But,
You can't help but to move when it comes on, except for maybe Chelsea. It seems
Right, she's really
the only
over it.
one not
Sorry.
jamming to the beat.
I was still mortified by that opening, but let's move on, shall we? All right. Thank you for joining us here on Justice is Served, where we bring you the latest in legal news with my co-hosts, Domonique Price, Yemi Abayami, and Shaka Smith. Oh. This is our last show of 2016, womp womp, but we're ready to come back big in 2017, which will hopefully be a better legal year and political year and just year overall. Is anybody like holding on to 2016? Like this
No.
was a good one for them.
Burn it down.
I'm holding on to 2016. Obama was president in 2016, so I'm still holding on to it. I don't know what 2017 is going to bring, so.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I'm going to be positive.
Way to be
2016 was
hopeful.
good in some ways, yes.
Oy, okay. Well, speaking of your buddy Obama,
Yeah.
he is trying to go out big. He is implementing a couple of laws, using different strategies to try and leave a legacy. Among them, he has issued the largest clemency, is that how you say it? Like the largest number, issued the largest number of clemencies any president has ever done in one day.
Yeah, I want to say the total number is already more than like the last four presidents,
That's true. And this week he commuted the sentences of 231 people.
Yeah, on Monday, yeah.
And so we've talked about, like, should he be doing a blanket, release, which apparently there's not even a free
Yeah, they
can't
can't
do
do
a
it.
blanket release.
Yeah.
So is this number 231 people impressive to you?
It's not impressive to me. There's so many people in jail
Right.
that I don't necessarily
It's
feel
all relative.
should be there.
Well, no, but relative to the number of clemencies that other presidents have done, yes,
sure.
it is impressive.
Right.
Given kind of the number of people in prison that maybe should not still be there, or who, if sentenced under today's laws, wouldn't be there.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of work to do, and Obama can't possibly get to them all. But I like the fact that he's trying to make an effort.
Yeah, and they're looking at them individually, which I like. I like that they're not doing anything blanket.
I guess they can't, because I sort of was rooting for some sort of blanket, like nonviolent drug offender.
That's how our government works.
All non-violent drug offenders
We can't be
in
that
in 1976 through 1980. Yeah, no.
God forbid we'd be really effective, efficient, and productive. But okay. So most of these were similar to the ones that he has commuted before. They were for nonviolent drug offenders. Some of them had life sentences for drug crimes that, if committed today and sentenced today, would be much less.
Yeah, and the administration said that there was a strong element of rehabilitation in all these cases. So,
all right, I'm gonna hang on to hope that he's going to do another big batch before his final
no,
time.
I think he'll do a few more big batches.
Yeah.
yeah, he's apparently trying to get through all of the applications that came in. So I think it'll bode well for people that got their information in
just
on time.
ambidextrous. Just start signing.
But yeah,
He
right.
actually, I think, reads them all.
Yeah.
Not just gapping his hand on everything.
But
I mean, can he do it from Hawaii? I mean, come on, time is a ticking here.
But I was more concerned about, I guess, the DACA people, the dreamers, those that went in for this program so they could work and essentially outed themselves as people not living here legally.
Right.
And I know there's been some question if they can be pardoned.
They
but
can't because they
Yeah, that
haven't
was really
been
interesting.
charged with anything yet.
Yeah.
They haven't been convicted of anything yet, so there's nothing to pardon them from.
So I'm
They're in a
wondering,
holding pattern.
Yeah, I'm hoping the next administration
Apparently
would
there's-
not go, let's look at the rolls and
Oy.
start a purge. But
That's a question mark.
and if you're a dreamer, that's something that you're validly scared about because you have no other ties.
Unless, they could do something crazy. They could convict them all of something and then pardon them.
Well, but I don't. It still wouldn't change the legal status. That's the problem is, that,
Yemi, I love Yemi's eyebrows. The eyebrows of disdain. She's like, that is batshit crazy woman.
Yeah.
Like, just let the imagination going.
Too painful for me.
Yeah. So the problem is whether or not these people are going to be up for deportation to countries
that's
they've
what
never
I'm
been to,
concerned
like
about
countries
when-
they don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, when Trump comes into office, who knows like where this might be,
It would be
on his
hugely
level
unpopular,
of
but-
priorities.
I mean, he
and
could
in
get rid of the
Congress.
entire program.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, getting rid of the program is one thing, but then going after people that self-identified is another. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
So let's get back to more good Obama news.
Yeah.
He has made it safe to Yelp
Yeah.
all over again, because apparently at some point it wasn't safe, which, because I as opinionated as I am, I have never gone online on like a Yelp or a TripAdvisor or any of those to leave my comments, but I sure do read other people's.
I think it must be a certain. I've never left comments either, but I think it has to be like a certain personality or a certain person who's just committed to providing information to others.
Bless them.
Yes, exactly, because it's critical. I read their reviews and I look at them and I use them to assess whether I want to use this person's services.
I don't Yelp because I get my justice in the moment. Like we're gonna resolve this while we're here. I'm not gonna go home and then get on Yelp and no, everything's gonna be handled. So I'll be satisfied when I leave the establishment.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna get some pointers on that. So apparently, people or companies were putting in these like anti-disparagement clauses into contracts, like hotels or anything that you sign something in order to use their product or service. And so then when these people would leave a bad Yelp review, the companies would go after them. And people didn't know that they had signed away their rights to say what was on their mind.
I've never read. I've used hotel services. I've used a whole bunch of services. I've never seen a clause saying don't disparage.
Well, but that's the thing, is it's in teeny
they're
tiny
in the fine print,
Yeah.
right? And it's not clear. And so I was actually really surprised to read about this because I was like, I
Me
had
too.
no clue that there was even an issue there.
Yeah.
Right. I did not really, when I first saw this story, that President Obama signs a law, so apparently this one was discussed in Congress and signs a law about Yelp. I didn't understand what it meant, but when I read about it, I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
And it's crazy to me how public this wasn't, because it's such a huge thing that affects so many people, because a lot of people are out there Yelping, and I'm surprised it didn't get any public traction.
Interestingly enough, it actually had. So this was something that started to kind of pop up about 4 or 5 years ago, and you heard a little bit of a chatter, just like anything. It had a news cycle, and then you just didn't hear anything else about it for a while. So when I read it in today's notes, I was like, finally, it's very, very rare that you actually get to close the loop on a lot of these news stories. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate it, even though it was 5 years ago, that I was able to they finally actually did something about that.
I'd heard something about it, but I thought it had been long resolved. I thought it was something that was like not an issue. Yeah.
So now, this isn't good for businesses. You think they're going to just take this laying down, or they're going to come up with some other way to try and curtail these kinds of comments?
Well, I mean, hopefully that way is to provide better service and response times to
you would
customers.
hope,
Yeah, that would be the responsible thing to do.
And I think a lot of businesses have done that with Yelp, where they try to respond and try to say, come back in for this or that. So I think it'll fuel that. So I think it'll be good for businesses and consumer relations.
And at the end of the day, it's still, your review still has to be truthful. So you can't just go on there and give a bad review and say, oh, well, I'm protected by this law.
Yeah.
You must make sure that it's accurate and that it's true, and then yes, you are protected.
It's a very important caveat, requirement.
Yeah,
there.
considering one Texas firm tried to go after a couple for $1 million, that's crazy. And then these other clauses had $10,000 fines.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't really, contemplate that when you're going to go check into a hotel.
That's crazy.
So.
And it wasn't just hotels.
Yeah, it's all kinds of businesses. Yeah.
Alrighty. Oh, and then the other last piece of good news, there's not much in the sort of like legal talk about this, but the fact that President Obama has protected a huge part of the Arctic and the Atlantic from drilling.
Yeah, he used to the obscure 1953 clause that allowed him to do that. I know I heard there's some talk that kind of stuff had been overturned before by one president.
I missed that.
Yeah, so
that's a bummer.
But I do know that the Democrats in Congress are already mounting the courtroom challenge should they the new organization try to overturn that. So
I thought it was interesting, though, as I was reading up on the last few things that Obama's trying to do before he leaves office, CNN's ticker for this story was Obama's last-ditch efforts before he leaves. And I was so fired up because I felt like this was such a positive story.
Yeah.
I hated how they tried to, like, put a negative spin on it when I was like, all these things are, like, so cool. Like, why must we feel like, you know, he hasn't done anything the last 300 days, and you want to throw that little kick in the butt as he's on his way out.
I mean, I think this is great stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wish it was bigger and more, but I guess he can only do so much when Congress won't do jack shit. Yes, I will tell you how I really feel.
Christmas edition.
Okay, and next, couple cities, including here in LA, are paying up big for police shootings. I say big because we're talking about millions of dollars, but I still don't know if you believe that this is what justice looks like. That when you get shot and killed, that you get, I mean, here we're looking at a range between LA and Chicago of like $1 to $3 million.
I mean, outside of obviously the conviction of the shooter, the police officer, I think this is as close to justice as you can get as some sort of monetary value.
I always think it's really interesting that in a lot of these cases, the cities will pay out, but the officers don't actually end up serving any type of time.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of like a conundrum, like, oh, you're saying that the city is at fault, but the officer's not.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to like reconcile that.
Are they saying though that they're, because a lot of these are settlements, so they're not really saying that we're at fault. We're just saying we want to make this go away.
Some of
Right,
them,
but
though,
let's think about when we settle. It's usually because we know if we take this to court, there's a huge chance that we may lose.
There's a chance that you, but right, so they're just trying to control the cost.
Right.
Yeah, just sort of like with no admission of guilt, I'm going to give you some money.
Right.
Some of these had gone to mediation, and some of these, like, there was
Huge
solid
cases.
writing on the wall that there was
Yeah.
going to be a payout, and so the city council just went ahead and approved something.
Yeah, and it's good, I guess, for the family members, because if they do go through trial, they're going to be waiting forever to maybe get a payout and might have to expend their own money to go to trial. So, you know.
And I think, to Dominique's point, what was interesting in one of the LA settlements, in one of those cases, the chief said this officer should be prosecuted, which is the first time I believe
I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I think was that
officer-
Brendan Glenn?
I think so.
I think it was
Yeah.
the guy that was in Venice.
Yeah.
2015. So, and he got the largest payout, which would be $4 million.
Yeah, so I one of the other stories was a story where nothing had happened for years. Like that maybe this was, I can't remember.
Was that Reginald?
Can't remember which one. I mean, it's so, I wish I could remember by name, but I cannot. But there was the one where the tape was under seal for like 3 years, and then when it was finally released, then the city council was like, okay,
I think that was Tedrick Chapman in Chicago.
Yeah, it was a Chicago one. Yeah. So it was interesting to me that the city council does nothing when there's no tape released to the public. As soon as it's released, they're like, okay, well, now we got to pay
And
out.
they wanted to block the release, but it was only after the Laquan McDonald tape came out. They said, you know what, let's just kind of ease off, and they released the tape. And so he's getting $3 million for the family.
So I don't know. Is this a good or bad precedent to set that only upon the release of the video will any sort of justice be served? Because otherwise, they'll just sit on it as long as possible. No payout, no prosecution, nada.
Well, I mean, I think one or two of the cases there was the video wasn't released, but they still paid out because they know it's on the video.
They knew,
so so the video may not get released, but they'll probably still pay out. You know.
Speaking of video, one of the city council members here in LA is quoted as saying, you know, this is really not good. And for years we didn't have problems with police shootings, and now we've gone down a bad road, and now we're arguing over whether police shootings are justified. We've gone down a bad road. Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, have we really changed the way that we're the relationships between police and civilians, or are we just now seeing the truth captured on these videos?
Yeah, it certainly feels like we're just now seeing the truth captured on these videos.
Yeah, I think what's been going on has been going on for decades, but it's just that, you know, it was always one, he said, she said, one person's word versus the other. And now you have irrefutable documentation and video evidence sometimes at the very least contradicting these police reports.
But I can see that point though, because we didn't hear about these shootings before, so and we didn't have Twitter and we didn't have this mass media, and people's.
But I think that comment really misses the boat. Like, no, dude, this has been going on.
Yeah.
All the time when you thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
It's just that we now have indisputable evidence showing us that things are not what you want them to be.
And it's easy to second guess, someone who lives maybe in a crime-ridden community, or maybe someone who has a previous record. When you have that person saying, no, the cops abused me or they used too much force, it's easy to kind of downplay the sincerity of those claims based on those external circumstances, where they lived, what their criminal history is. But video does, even with that, video doesn't allow you to contradict what this person says.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just gives that extra level of proof that I think third parties really needed before they actually gave credence to the claims that have been going on for all these years.
One thing that I didn't find was an explanation of how they figured out how much money. So the city of LA is going to pay out $8 million to 3 families. Chicago agreed to pay over $5 million in 2 police shootings.
It's usually a formula. It's similar to the formula that they have when they decide how much money they give to a inmate who has been wrongly convicted. It's a really similar formula. So that's pretty much all they're
and
is it like economic loss? So if you had been
there's-
able to work what you would have earned, is that?
Yeah, there's economic loss, but to me they also kind of added in the egregiousness of, because how much could they prove essentially. So with Brendan Glenn, it was pretty blatant that they lied essentially. He wasn't reaching for a gun, and they had the video to prove it. So he got what is it, $4 million.
Yeah.
And then I think Reginald Doucette, there was more. He
little
fought
bit
back
more of a,
against the officers,
situation.
and there was a situation, a scuffle, but they still killed him, and he was unarmed and naked at the time.
Yeah.
So
and there were multiple officers.
Right.
so it
It
seemed
just
to
was
kind of go with a little bit of the egregiousness of the situation, as well as their economic damages.
But I think my frustration with just reading this story altogether is the fact that, to the councilman's point about how, wow, this is all new to me and he seems like he was under a rock. It's frustrating to now still have this evidence and so many officers not be brought to justice with this evidence.
Yeah,
and so it's kind
I'm
of
with you.
frustrating. For me, I find it to be a little bit frustrating. I'd love to hear your guys' point. It's like now the evidence is right in front of our faces, and it's like, are we the only people watching these videos?
I think it's good that Chief Beck, in one of these instances, is the one that recommends prosecution. I think that's a slight crack in what is this, blue wall or blue shield that
Right, but I feel like his statement was buried under an entirely different story. So I feel like that should have been a narrative in its own story itself.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's interesting because I think you had a mentality of you didn't see things because everyone believed they were killing the perpetrator. Even if he was unarmed, I still believed I was killing the bad guy. And so now that you're saying, wait, these guys aren't bad, it's kind of in our schema, then it's hard to change a departmental mentality. And I think that's what you're seeing is that's why the officers are still having that tension between, do I put my life on the line going, that's not a bag of peanuts he's reaching for and that is a gun. And so I think that's where the dissonance is.
But that's when you have to go back and train them in using kind of non-lethal force when they're addressing people, train them in de-escalation
and bias training,
tactics. Change your departmental rules so that you're not allowed to use whatever chokehold as the New York City Department did or whatever the case is. Make sure that they are looking at themselves internally and looking at what their practices are and trying to use non-lethal force when it's safe for the officer.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting to me that in the last 3 years there have been a lot more officer killing videos that have come out. But yet, shoot to kill is still on the training books for almost every police force around the country. And it's interesting to me that that's not really being addressed because I feel like that would completely change the narrative.
The Oversight Commission for LA City they're saying that they're trying to aim at retraining for less lethal forms of control and things of that nature, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. In the meantime, I'm with you on the frustration.
And I don't even think the shoot to kill is, because a lot of these, we had people running away, and they're not supposed to shoot at anyone who's running away. So I don't even know if kind of changing that part of what's in the police manual helps. It just got to be a full scale sort of revamping.
No, I agree. It's just frustrating to still see that verbiage on every manual across the country.
Yeah.
And so then the way that in LA that these settlements are being paid out is through bonds, and so the city is not in an immediate moment going to feel the loss of these millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Do you think that it makes a difference how this money goes out, like the pain that the city feels, the city council feels, about the pressure that they put on the police department to change its ways? Because sadly, money is the way that usually people change.
Yeah.
But if the way the money is paid out is less painful, then maybe it won't have that effect.
Well, the two methods of paying out seem to be pretty painful. Either the city is going to have to run a deficit and like not be able to afford other social services, X, Y, and Z, or they do the bond thing where it's essentially credit, but they're having to pay that back over time.
Right.
So either way is not advantageous, I think, for the city, and they don't want it either way. So I think they're going to push the police department to kind of clean up a little bit.
I mean, we should hope so. I mean, let's just see how many millions does it take for enough pressure to be applied for them to stop.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if that officer is actually charged, the one that Chief Beck says should be charged. And then, sort of related, the Sheriff Baca trial. If he goes down, there will be sort of a crack in the way that people see law enforcement, and like maybe they're not all as perfect and good as they hold themselves
Does
up.
anyone think they're perfect?
There's a lot of us that know that they're not, but I think when a conviction of the 10th sheriff deputy, and including the number 1 and 2 guys, is out there, then maybe more of the public that currently tends to side with law enforcement will think, okay, maybe there really is something going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because I side with law enforcement. If you're a good police officer, I want you around. So I support the police. We're looking at bad apples and like bad actors. So it's just about the police departments having a system in place to like weed these guys out.
And actually caring to do so.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times in those police departments, we protect our own.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they're right or wrong, and they protect their own. So you have
it's a huge problem.
partners willing to cover up for, the other. Oh yeah, I'll corroborate your
exactly.
side of the story. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Where you feel like
Right,
your duty
that's
to
the thing that
protect
needs to be
your
broken.
brothers
Right.
is more important than your duty to the public, which is what you were sworn in to do.
But I think they put us in a very us versus them mentality. If I say Black Lives Matter, it means I don't believe Blue Lives Matter. It means no, I believe Blue Lives Matter. I'm saying Black Lives Matter too. They also matter because we're treated as if it doesn't. So it's not an us versus them. Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. It's about figuring out how to get it so that no one's getting shot and
And
killed.
it's really just a question of right and wrong. Are
Yeah.
you following policy? Are you following the law? Are you acting legally? Are you acting reasonably? There shouldn't be a dispute.
I think
Yeah.
part of it
As to-
is also the reason why police officers are engaging with so many Black, Latino people is because of the war on drugs. This has been shown time and again. We saw this in 13th. I hear about, we saw this in the study that we talked about last, or the article that we talked about last week, about how much the war on drugs causes bad police interaction.
And we saw the Nixon memorandum and why they went after these different people.
So from like a macro level, one of the ways to reduce the number of police shootings that we see is to get rid of this war on drugs.
Yeah.
Good luck with that to us, right?
I feel like that's one of the things that Obama had been trying to work on for the last 8 years, and he just wasn't able to.
Not with
get
this
too much
Republican
traction.
Congress.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
So on the state level, at least with certain drugs like marijuana especially, we're seeing a lot of decriminalization. But where that goes now, if Jeff Sessions is Attorney General, who obviously hates marijuana, it's called it the devil, and thinks it's a gateway drug to everything else
Hell.
it's evil. Yeah.
That's basically what he was saying.
Yeah, so we'll see where that goes, and that'll be one of the big things we'll be tracking with this administration.
I saw an article. I can't remember what the congressman's name is, but he was like, "We need a new war on drugs," referring to
Prescription pills?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I was like, at
that-
least,
but hold on.
Who's that
This
gonna
is-
target, though?
This is where it gets funny.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
This congressman is the father of the CEO of Mylan, the one that raised the drug prices on the
wow.
EpiPen.
Yeah,
So
wow.
it was just so ironic to see that he wants to declare a new war on drugs against Big Pharma when his daughter is like kind of one of the poster children for bad big pharma leaders.
I think we just need to go into sort of a rehabilitative and restorative when it comes to drugs, whether it's prescription or otherwise, because obviously people need help, So I think it's criminalizing is not going to be the answer.
We've seen it's not been helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, what really is the answer?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what will be rehabilitative if, for Sheriff Baca, former Sheriff Baca, if he is convicted. We are right now on verdict watch. Yeah. Waiting. It's been a couple days now since the case was wrapped up. One interesting witness that testified was a former U.S. attorney who is now a federal judge, who testified that he got into an argument with Baca over what was happening, that Baca was really pissed off that the FBI was investigating his jails. There was a lot of emphasis on that. It was like, these are my goddamn jails. So a lot of ego, a lot of like, these are his. And that Baca was just really pissed that the FBI was investigating the department without consulting him. Like, he wanted to be exempt for some reason from this investigation.
I didn't take it as him wanting to be exempt, but more so permission. That he felt like they should have come to him to let him know that there was going to be an investigation. I'm not saying that was right.
I don't understand how he thinks you investigate corruption and you leave out the top dog. You let the top dog in on the investigation. How does that work?
That's mentality, though.
Yeah.
He's the sheriff.
Yeah.
When you think about the idea we have of sheriffs, like, I run this town. I think that's a mentality that's just pervasive throughout history. So in terms of that, I don't fault him in that way for thinking that way, but we have to get to that problem and say, no, we have to be independent actors that are acting responsibly.
Yeah, so the way that things were left, prosecutor closed the case out saying no man is above the law. Defense attorneys are like, this is a guy who really tried to clean up the jails and who was very progressive, and he's not this guy. It was everybody but him that knew what was going on. And I was hoping that by now we would have a verdict because the case wrapped up like a day and a half ago.
Yeah, but I like that we had that reporter that talked about what
LA
Baca did. Yeah, the LA Times. And so this was unusual to have a reporter testify. And I thought that was interesting because we bring up arguments of freedom of press and what can be done, but they limited the scope to what he had already publicly put out in the papers. And one of those things was that he sent those people to the FBI, the FBI woman's home that was investigating to talk to her.
Right. I
To
actually
threaten,
was trying
not
to
just talk to her, to threaten her with arrest.
Well, the reporter said as far as he knew, it was he sent them to go speak to the FBI agent to find out more information, and then other people testified it was to intimidate,
Yeah.
From this particular story, I gathered that the reporter had done a series of stories on him. And so I was like, I want to read those.
Yeah,
like, if it's as juicy as this testimony, so I tried to look up like Archive LA Times, and of course you needed a subscription, but I was like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So I'll let you know, you guys, when I do.
So what do we make it mean, if anything, that it's been a day and a half, coming up on like it's already 7 o'clock LA time. It's like 2 full days and we have no verdict unless, maybe I should hit refresh.
I'm not surprised. I think it's going to take a little bit of deliberation because I could see them being very split.
Yeah, and then even just with the charges and making sure that they get the charges right. And
there's a few.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they're taking a little bit of time, but it would surprise me if he was convicted of nothing.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to take a guess on how this is going to turn out?
I have no, I can't. I won't say it.
Why?
No, this sounds.
You have an opinion.
No. I was gonna say I don't know. I think after that whole the Walter Scott officer getting kind of released, even in the midst of such like clear cut evidence, it is my faith in the jury system rocked a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like with something that's a bit less clear cut exactly, and it's a matter of what did he know at what time, and we're not really. There's no smoking gun that demonstrates that. It's kind of just inferences from and statements from the subordinates that were convicted.
And it's the same, like, from the same pool of people that have convicted everyone else, so I would have to think.
Hope so.
I just won't be surprised if he gets off scot-free.
Yeah.
I'll think I'll be more surprised if there's like some true jail time here.
Yeah.
Because that's the ultimate sting.
But the judge in this case is kind of like, he wants him to go to jail, because remember he initially had that plea, like had arranged that plea agreement where he was only going to serve 6 months, and the judge was like, that's too lenient, like, and then he took the risk to go to trial and see. So if the judge has anything to do with it, then
Very
maybe we do see.
They can always throw out the jury's
Right.
verdict if he doesn't like it.
Oh, yeah,
That would
yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was hoping that this one would come in because now we're not going to be back for 2 weeks, and so this will.
Did you hit refresh?
Will definitely be over. Did I hit refresh? No, I thought it was going to take too long. My internet here is not that good. Oh my gosh, my article on CNN is on this Newt Gingrich draining the swamp thing, which just, I'm like
A lot
so
of
annoyed
conversation
about.
about
Yeah.
draining the swamp.
Yeah, but you hear it was a joke, right? It was a total joke.
Oh, I don't know.
No, nope, nothing on.
Yeah.
Are we
Judge
talking,
Aaron
are we talking
Persky?
Persky, the judge,
yes.
the Brock Turner judge?
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, exactly. Brock Turner judge, thousands of complaints went in to try and report this guy to get him disciplined, kicked off the bench, whatever, and we got nothing.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
So was it the California
wasn't
Commission
surprised
on
about
Judicial
that.
Performance?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a jury. It's the California Commission on
yeah.
Judicial Performance cleared him of wrongdoing, which he didn't do anything wrong. It was just morally reprehensible. So, but in terms of what he could do within his strictures, he followed the rules.
Exactly. It's that they didn't find any evidence of bias. They didn't find any evidence of an abuse of an authority. That his sentencing in previous cases were pretty consistent with either with plea
Which
deals.
means that this is really
No,
bad
Yeah.
because what he did is so normal as to not raise any eyebrows to this body
remember-
that's
But
supposed to.
Yeah.
the commission said that he had his sentences were in line with the probation officer's
Yeah, even though it
recommendations.
wasn't. Usually his sentences are in line with the probation officer's recommendation and the prosecutor's. In this particular case, the prosecutor went one way, the probation officer went the other way. So that's why this was so kind of outlandish.
I didn't understand the probation officers.
So typically,
It said jail time on there, but I didn't see how much jail time.
I think they
probation.
recommended 6 months.
It was low.
Yeah.
This is just.
And so typically they're on the same page, but this time they weren't, and he went with the probation officer. And I think it does speak to the bias and this idea that, oh, well, Brock in some way might be a victim if I send him to jail too long. And I guess the good part of it was that new law that came out of it that kind of shields. Before, you would be mandated jail time if you raped someone using physical force, but not if they were unconscious.
Right.
And now if you don't use physical force but they're unconscious, you're still mandated for jail time.
Yeah.
Well, that exposed a really big loophole in the criminal code here because rape isn't considered rape unless it's intercourse.
Yep.
Yeah.
So even if you're penetrated with some other type of object, that's not considered rape. It's just
And it's a lesser
sexual
charge.
assault. Yeah, it's sexual assault.
Yeah.
Which
is
lower
really,
penalties.
to me, I feel like really horrible. Because if you read some of the cases, the things that these women were being violated with, I was just like, how is that not worse?
Yeah.
But again, it was good that it called attention to that. California.
Yeah.
has-
Right. I was just surprised that this was the first thing that brought it to the
Yeah,
forefront.
I mean, I don't think many of us would have known.
No.
that.
Yeah, but
not at
again,
all.
it's because we have this Twitter and we have these social media tools, and we just have to be vigilant to pay attention to everything. But if he had been convicted with the new law, he would have gotten 3 years.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of funny, interesting justice,
Well,
What's the interesting justice?
Well, that he would have been, but now that anyone doing what he
that he
does,
would have been, even though it didn't- even though it's
anyone
not
going,
actual.
Yeah, I mean, anyone going forward now
Okay.
would be convicted. So there is justice in the forward-looking sense.
I don't know that that's justice.
I don't know if
I
it is.
take it
I
where I
was
can get it.
I'm staring like.
I mean, justice in terms of
it.
That's
like.
not justice in this case, but
Yeah, in
that
this case,
is
in
that's the silver lining.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
I'll take it. It's Christmas.
all is not lost if you hate this judge, because there's going to be an effort to recall him.
Yeah.
Judges are voted in, and they can be voted out. So he'd be recalled and replaced. Why do you laugh? You think
Because
big fat chance?
it actually just reminded me of like repeal and replace, like Obamacare. So this is like Persky,
Yeah.
like
Persky's repeal
care,
and replace. Yeah. But I mean, I think it makes sense because he did have a bias to me, and he went to Stanford.
But they specifically found that the Stanford connection was not enough for him to have. He should have recused himself or something over that.
Well, I think it's hard to say as an outsider, anyone, to go tell
Right.
someone that your 30-year career, whatever, that you're biased because of it. But we kind of know he is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we know
Right.
it. But I
It's
can't
so
conclude
weird. They said-
definitively.
I feel
Because-
like the alumni association at Stanford is so tight knit. It just, to me, was just all
But
wrong.
this body said that his connection with Stanford was minimal in the last 30 years.
Well,
But
yeah.
that's you're current connections to the school or over the doesn't change that you feel something about other
when you
people.
see someone who is similar to you.
Went to the
And,
same
yeah.
school, athlete,
Yeah.
you know, that's the whole thing about bias, that you don't see that somebody who's similar to you, you're going to be more favorable to
empathetic
them.
to.
I 100% agree. I just think it's hard for a commission to go, well, we have to look at particular markers of it, though. You know, has he been donating to Stanford the last 30 years consistently? Does he go to the sports games?
I
Does he
think
hang out? You know,
regardless of whether he went to Stanford or Harvard or GW, the mere fact of it is that he sees a young college-educated athlete, and he is a college-educated. I don't think it really matters what school he went to or how tied he was to Stanford, but he sees this, you know, this young kid is just like myself. I don't have to go to Stanford to know, to know that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what may have influenced.
and maybe you
know,
need to,
that
well,
bias.
that definitely did, but I just think it's hard to say as a commission that, you know, I can just say that that's what caused this outcome.
Especially without a history of case. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's one thing if you have a side-by-side where it's like, okay, he's seen a case where a young black athlete has done the same
That's
thing
what I would have loved
to have
that a
seen.
Brock
Yeah.
Turner has done, and you see a disparity there, and you see a consistent pattern with that, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like that was
But I
that
think
was
we do need
present.
that kind of bias training for a judiciary, because we talked about how non-diverse it is. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I think that is something that would be important.
I
So
think
I-
that's the bigger question,
Yeah.
is looking at the panel.
Yeah.
So I say we recall him and replace him with Shaka.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah?
Judge Smith.
Okay. Or as I like to mess up your name and I call you your Twitter name, you'd be Judge Strong.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a good. That's a good ring
that's
to it.
good,
Judge
yeah.
Strong. Don't come into my
Let's
chambers with
legally
any
change your name.
nonsense.
Yes. Judge Judy, I'm coming for you.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us for 2016. Thank you so much, Shaka, Yemi, and Domonique. We will be back here in 2 weeks in 2017. In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, tweet me at Chelsea Galicia.
And you can tweet me at Domonique P_ESQ.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ayemyems.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.
Hopefully we're
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Keven Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.